Hey, I'm Kyle Frazier with Marin. Today I'm going to be talking about how to identify and avoid the most common mistakes when listing and selling your home. Now, this video is focused on Southern Novato, which consists primarily of the neighborhoods of Marin Country Club Estates, Pointe Marin, Hamilton Field, Bel Marin Keys, Pacheco Valley, and Loma Verde. But these are applicable to all home sales in Marin County and perhaps anywhere where you have a luxury home environment with discriminating buyers. So let's get to it. So the three main areas where I see sellers and listing agents get tripped up in South Novato, California, as well as throughout Marin County, especially when it comes to luxury homes, rise in the areas of pricing, presentation, and process. So first up, let's talk about pricing and strategy mistakes. First, the biggest hurdle is making sure that you price the home properly relative to what similar homes have sold for in the neighborhood, and keeping in mind how your home might fit into the hierarchy of sub neighborhood and micro elements in any given neighborhood. For example, do you have a bigger or smaller lot than average? Do you have good sun exposure relative to other homes that have sold? Is your home updated and in tip-top condition? These are all things that will impact what buyers perceive the value of your home to be. And when I talk to buyers, I talk to them not about price per foot, but in the amount of enjoyment per square foot. So all these factors fall into that. Also, another mistake I see a lot is people deciding to just go ahead and sell their home off market because for whatever reason, they don't feel the need to test the market. Now, I would submit that if you can properly present your house and market it in an effective fashion, that the fact you go on the MLS is going to expose your home to a lot more eyeballs. And when you have more people viewing your home online, that's going to necessarily have more people want to come visit your home in person. And the more people that visit your home in person, the more likely it is you'll get more offers. And if you get more offers, well, guess what? You're probably going to sell your house for more. Now, I know there's a lot of great reasons to test the market through a coming soon mechanism. I do it all the time, but I do carefully talk with my sellers about whether or not they actually want to sell. If they have a magic wand price, which they're totally fine with, I get it. Let's do it, especially if there's privacy concerns or the desire to avoid the turmoil that comes along with listing your home and having broker tours and open houses and so forth. That's valid. The other thing that kind of goes hand in hand with pricing is an attachment to a particular price. Sometimes sellers have a number in mind that's perhaps not realistic. And when this happens and they're not cognizant of what the real market dynamics are relating to their house and the specific characteristics I mentioned earlier when it comes into determining what an appropriate price might be, they get bogged down in negotiations and things can spin out of control quickly. So having realistic expectations is very important. Finally, the last thing that I believe is really important is, in fact, finding and getting the help of a top-notch real estate agent. People often ask, is so-and-so a good agent and so forth? And I ask them, do you mean an agent that sells a lot of houses or an agent that actually represents their client? Now, these are two different things. There are a lot of agents who sell a lot of homes who maybe aren't the best, and then there's some agents who don't sell many homes at all, but they really represent their clients. Trick is finding somebody who does sell homes on a regular basis so they understand what's happening in the market and what kinds of things trip up transactions, but also are finely attuned to their clients' desires and needs and actually represent their clients in a meaningful way, not just a generic listing agent. The next area where sellers and listing agents often get tripped up have to do with preparations and presentation. Skipping home preparations and staging is a major blunder. You really do need to declutter, deep clean, address any issues that relate to the quality of the home and buyer perception. So, for example, if you need to paint the interior and exterior before selling, you should do that. Same thing goes with worn or dated flooring. There's high ROI in these projects. And in a luxury market like we have in South Novato or Marin, overall, it's wise to take care of these issues. And equally important is once the home is cleared out and fixed up, get a great stager in there to make the home accessible to all buyers. They have a hard time imagining themselves in homes that aren't staged. Along these lines, ignoring necessary repairs is also a major blunder. The fact that there's a drippy faucet or torn window screens or exterior gates that don't open and close properly, they're minor issues. But when buyers see that, they think, oh, geesh, what is happening underneath the hood? Are there other bigger issues that the sellers haven't taken care of and perhaps not disclosed? Also, when it comes to presentation, your photography and video needs to be spot on and it needs to be designed to appeal to luxury buyers in Marin County. It's shocking to me how often I see poor photography and or no video. And the fact of the matter is 99% of buyers are online looking at listings, not only through the MLS feeds, but also on YouTube. So you need to make sure that is all squared away. Make sure you have a lengthy discussion with your listing agent about exactly what they're going to do and what their process is. It'll serve you in the end. The last thing related to preparation that I think sometimes gets overlooked is the fact that when people drive out up to a house, that is the first impression that they're going to have of your home. So you need to make sure that your landscaping out front is tidy, tasteful, and if you need to cut a tree back or plant some bushes or flowers to brighten things up, you should do it. That little expenditure is just priceless when it comes to first impressions. You can't erase a first impression. Finally, we have the last category that I think merits attention, and that has to do with process and negotiation. I often run across listings online where there are severe limitations on when and how you can show a home. And obviously, if a home's occupied while being marketed, there needs to be some give and take. And to avoid being a seller that agents would consider a bad seller, you need to be reasonably accommodative when it comes to showing requests. You never know. Your buyer might be in town for just 24 or 48 hours, and they truly only have this limited period to see your home. So let them. Just have your house in a constant state of readiness and be prepared to be flexible. The other thing that we sometimes see is a lack of effort when it comes to negotiation. There are certain agents that simply just do the generic job of shuffling paper. You need to make sure you've got an agent who will stand up for you and make sure that your interests are represented in a forceful fashion, but also an effective fashion. So, to sum it up, you've got three categories where sellers and listing agents commonly make mistakes. They are pricing and strategy mistakes, preparation and presentation mistakes, and process and negotiation mistakes. If you can keep yourself focused on these three general areas of concern, you will maximize the likelihood that your house sells for as much as possible. Now, keep in mind, all homes sell in a range. Do you want to sell at the bottom of the range or at the top of the range? Follow this advice and you'll sell at the top. I'm Kyle Frazier with Imagine Marin. Be sure to like and follow. We post here often. We'll see you next time.